Welcome back to Yerushalmi Pesachim. We are holding on Dalet Amud Aleph. We are holding at Perek Rishon Halacha Beis. Now, once you search the chametz, you don't have to worry. Whatever chol there is, a weasel or a mouse, whatever, has taken food from house to house, from place to place. You checked one place. You don't worry that afterwards some animal has brought you food from elsewhere. If you're going to worry about that, then maybe one courtyard to another, one town to another. There's no end to it then. So you don't have to worry about that. We don't worry. This is really what it should have said. And we're not worried from town, town to town, courtyard to courtyard, place to place, bias to bias, and house to house. That's the order we should have mentioned things. We should have started with the distance ones first, and then the nearer ones. Because if you're worried, if you're definitely worried that he's going to bring from another town, definitely have to wait one courtyard to another. If you're going to worry about that, place to place, you'll have to worry about house to house. So the Tana should have learned the Mishnah on not only this, but also this. Not only we don't worry about town to town, but even courtyard we don't worry. And not only don't worry about courtyard, but even house to house. Oh, Rabbi Yosef, even according to the Nusach in our Mishnah, we can still explain it. Don't worry that he's taken food from house to house. And we're place to place. And if so, from courtyards or town, what does that mean? If you are going to start worrying about house to house, then you have to worry about place to place. If you are going to worry about place to place, then you have to worry courtyard to another. And if you're going to worry about courtyard, then you have to worry town to town. There's no end to it. Can everyone check their chametz at the same time? So that there's definitely no chametz going to come to you from elsewhere. It's impossible. Therefore, we can never do the mitzvah because chametz according to that. We always have to worry some animals brought something from a place which hasn't been checked. So that's how they want to learn the wording the other way around.
Can't we just say that
it's impossible. Impossible to fulfill. Well, that's also true. But we're just saying it's just impossible anyway. Some say it's Zu ben tzach lo mazu. It's this, and we don't really need to say it. Not only this, I don't have to tell you, you don't have to worry. Because ein ledavar self at the end of the day, there's no end to it. Alright. We check on the night of the 14th. In the 14th in the morning. And in the 6th hour of the 14th. If you didn't check the night of the 14th, you've done check in the morning. And if you didn't check in the morning, then you should check then check within the festival, which means the 7th hour of Erev Pesach. And if you didn't check then, then you can check after Pesach, because chametz, which is over on Pesach, is forbidden to be eaten. So you have to check if there's any chametz there that you shouldn't come to eat it. So how do you do once you've done the bedika? So the chametz that you leave for yourself after you checked on the night of the 14th, to eat at the night and the next morning, you leave it somewhere guarded, so you shouldn't have to start checking that you might lose it, this and the other. Rabbi Yehuda said we check the night of the 14th, and then the morning, and then the Zman Bil. Rabbi Yehuda. The reason for Rabbi Yehuda that you have to check 3 times, the Torah says 3 times that you shouldn't have in your possession. It says you should remove the sourdough from your homes, and that's like a fourth command. So there's 4 times. But I say, no, that's only tashbisu. It's not Lashon Lav, it's Lashon Aseh. Yehuda doesn't account those which are, he's only including those which are Lois Aseh. Doesn't it say a 4th time, Shivas Yamim Sa'alei Masev Vatechem, shouldn't be found in your homes. Rav Yosef, Mekivin Shazeh Sarach Lazev, Zerach Sarach Lazev, 2 psukim, it says you shouldn't have Sa'ar, and Sa'ar shouldn't be found in your homes. So we need one to understand the other. So, they're all considered as one. It's like one pasuk. That's why he only took 3 times and not 4. Now, why the 2 psukim required one for each other? Had it not said, if it only said Leira Elocha, it shouldn't be a seen to you. I thought that if a guy hifkid deposits with you with a Jew, Yehi Mutter, should be permitted because it's not yours. Talmud Levis, where it says, you're not allowed to have it in your reshus, even if it's not yours. And if it just said, shouldn't be in your home, I might have thought even Yichad like bias, the person designates a room where his stuff is there. Maybe that's still forbidden. Talmud Levis says, that which is not yours, so there's a contradiction. Lacha is mashma, that a guy's one is permitted. But Teichem is mashma is forbidden. Okay, so how do you understand it? The contradiction. Hifkid es like asu, if a guy deposits something with you, forbidden is forbidden. But yichad like bais, if they designate a special area, then it is permitted. We have a contradiction in the view of Rabbi Yehuda. The Tani, we've learnt in our Mishnah, you check the night of the 14th of Basa, Shachris in the morning, Shasabil, over him, they said if you didn't do it, then do it in the morning, if you didn't check, then you check in the Moed. If you didn't check the Moed, then you check after the Moed. Now the B'dika before Pesach, Rabbi Yehuda is more machmer, and he says, 3 times before Pesach. Chacham said it's enough with once. He says, before the Zman Biur, you have to check 3 times. Now that the time has come, that's within Pesach, again you have to check. So if you didn't check the 14th, how can you be Mako and say you don't have to check in the Moed? The Mishnah's mashma, you check afterwards, according to him. Chachamim, they say if you didn't check in the 14th, check in the Moed. Rabbi Yehuda seems to argue on this. He seems to say you don't have to check in the Moed. How can that be? The Babli actually learns that according to Rabbi Yehuda, you don't check in Pesach. And the reason is, this man Issa has come, we're worried you might find chametz, you might end up eating it. That's why they don't want you to check during Pesach. Anyway, the Gemara answers, we didn't need to be Maisif on the Rabbi Yehuda, only the Sefer. This is the point. If you didn't check in the Moed, then you've done Achamayid, then check afterwards. And that Rabbi Yehuda argues, he says you don't have to check after the Moed. Chametz Sha'ava Alav Pesach, you don't have to check for that. And the Chacham say, no, it's not true, you have to check. They earlier did, if you didn't check the 14th, check in the Moed, Rabbi Yehuda also agrees. That's only brought Agav Sefer, but really even Rabbi Yehuda agrees you should check in the Moed. What you do find, leave it somewhere guarded, you shouldn't check for it. How can you do it? You shouldn't have to check again after the chametz if it's going to be, it might be lost from where you've left it. Case that way. So kafar of keli, put a keli on top. Kafar of keli v'lo. If you put a keli on top, you didn't find it. I said maybe some insect took it away because there was a keli on top. It must be a person. A person must have taken it and eaten it. So you don't have to check again. Like kafar of keli v'lo. If you didn't put a keli and you didn't find it, maybe an animal took it. That house where the chametz was sichudika, you have to check. Or maybe maybe the nearby houses. Yitzchok need to be checked. How do we learn from the following? If you lost a kazayas of the dead is metame ba'el, right? Metame on the same roof, but ba'is in a house. And then sort of ibade. So what's this? You sort of you lost it, you destroyed it. Big shuvalei matzai, you looked for it, you didn't find it. Habayis tahar. We say, look, an animal must have eaten it, or someone took it away. The kashimad say, but when you find it afterwards, habayis tamei lemafreya, the house is tamei all the way from the time you lost it until now, and anyone who's been in that time becomes tamei, because there was an eva kazayis of a mace there all this time, even though it wasn't there when you looked first. We say, well, you obviously didn't check properly enough. Now these halachas about chametz and tumah are learned one from the other, so we can learn various din of each one from the other. And the din of tumah we can learn from the din of chametz. The other way around. There's no difference because when a mace, you lost it. You thought where you put it. And because of a mace where you put it in a house and then you didn't find it. In both situations, the house is not tahor until you check and you don't find it. Just like as far as chametz. If you put the chametz, you didn't put a keli, if afterwards you don't find it, you need to check again. And b'dikas chametz is learned from tumah. It's only that house you have to check, right? Not other houses. Like we learn with tumah, if you didn't check, you didn't find it, the house is tahor. It's much, even the other houses nearby are tahor, so you don't have to check only that house where you lost something to tameh. But and here as well, if you check the chametz in this house, you don't find it, we don't say the other houses need checking. And what about the chametz in the house you didn't put keli, and then you come and you don't find it, you've got to check the house. Well, even that house shouldn't need checking. Now, what's going on here? Nishmeina menada. What Rabbi Yehuda are you talking about? Let's see. Nishmeina menada. Rabbi Yehuda. Masek b'shivchaseh shel masek. So there was someone who used to squeeze the olives. And he had a maidservant, Echa Berimain, in the place of Berimain. She threw a fetus, a dead fetus, into a pit. The Cohen comes, and he goes to see in the pit, to see, was it a male or female? To know how many days to Tumas later, right? How many days, 33 or 66 days of Tumah for this maidservant. He didn't see the fetus there. The story came to the Chacham to decide is the Cohen Tameh or not. But Tiaru, he said it's touched. The animals would have taken away that dead body. They would have eaten it. So according to this, even chametz you don't put a keli, you don't find it, you shouldn't need to check. Let's say an animal took it away. So Gemara says, the animal runs after meat and wants to eat it. So we say he ate it. But he doesn't start running after bread to eat it. So chametz, you can't rely on the fact the animal's taken it. We're worried maybe a child took it, it got trampled, but it's still in the house. Therefore, you need to check out the house. And even if you want to tell me that it runs after the meat and after bread, but basa with meat, it will come and it will eat the whole thing. Pas with bread, it's not going to eat the whole thing straight away. It's going to leave parts of it left behind. So even if the animal took it, there's still some of it the house still needs checking out. Now, according to the last answer, it comes from Rabbi Yehuda, he's machmir even with chametz more than chachamim. Rabbanan de Kisrin b'shem Rabbo. That which we learn in Choshen Shem Ragara Chulda. You don't have to worry the animals taking it from place to place. But Rabbi Yehuda Choshen, the Mishnah there is the view of the chachamim. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we can be lenient with a mace that an animal will take it away. Then if we're going to be lenient to say the animal's taken the dead body away, we can also be strict with chametz that maybe the animal took it from place to place. Right, it'll leave a bit, and therefore you have to check the house. So it could be Rabbi Yehuda is more strict, because he'll say, yes, an animal came, but he didn't take it all away, but it took it from place to place. Rameir said you can eat chametz all of the 5th hour until the end of the 5th hour. And you burn it at the beginning of the 6th hour. That's when you can't eat it, that's why you can't get benefit. You eat for 4 hours, and the 5th hour we wait and see. You can't eat it, but you can still have a benefit. And you burn it at the beginning of the 6th hour. She says you can eat it all 5, and Rabbi Yehuda said no, you can eat it for 4. Rabbi said, even after midday, it's only midivrei, and it's only rabbinically forbidden. And therefore, when they're machmir to eating before chatzais, they weren't machmir, only beginning of 6th hour is the problem, because even the afternoon is rabbinical. Rabbi Yehuda, he says, no, 6 hours and onwards is forbidden with divrei Torah. Therefore, they were machmir to forbid it already from the beginning of the 5th hour. Now, how do Rameir know that after chatzais it's only rabbinical? On the first day, you should remove sa'ar from your houses. The first day is a Chamishach, so it's 15th of Nisan. Yachala might think the mitzvah shetachshach from the beginning of the night of the 15th. Talmud Lamed says, including a bit of time beforehand. Okay, so so give before sunset an hour. You should keep the chametz a time of cutting before the beginning of the 15th. So at the beginning of the night of the 15th, it won't be in your domain. But you're allowed to keep it on the 14th, even 6 hours and onwards. It's only Osmid Rabbanon. Now, how do we know? Yehuda said chametz is from 6 hours, you have to remove it minat Torah. Yehuda. It'll be on the first day. So he learns by Yom Rishon that Abasa is the 14th, the day before Pesach. Does mean all day you can't have? No. Okay, so divide the 14th, half for chametz, half for matzah. So from chatzos onwards, you have to remove the chametz min haTorah. Okay. We have a contradiction from that. Tamar elsewhere, who are ma'ach, is usually the ma'id to exclude. V'hacha here, who are ma'ach is the rabbis. That what? You just have to, not 1 hour before sunset you should get rid of it, but the rest of the afternoon you can have it. Although here as well, ach is a riboy. Sorry, it's not riboy, it's a miut. The Torah said we're excluding the 15th from chametz. Don't do your beer at the beginning of the day, do it before the 15th starts. Okay. Machlekes Rameir Yehuda, chametz on Erev Pesach in the afternoon, right? Is it asum on Torah or is it rabbinically forbidden? Now we're going to bring a source for their argument. Rameir, the Torah says on Cohen Pesach, Lo teichel olav chametz. Don't eat the chametz. Alav is ala achilasai. The time of the achilah of Cohen Pesach, which is the night of the 15th. So the 14th, there's no Issa Torah. Rabbi Yehuda, he says, Lo teichel olav chametz ala siyasai. That means don't eat chametz at the time when you bring Cohen Pesach, which is midday on the 14th. So you can't eat it min Torah on the 14th in the afternoon. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, 6 hours onwards asum on Torah for eating, for benefit. Rabbi Yehuda holds there's aseh v'lo saseh ala achilasa, on eating. Even Erev Pesach, there's aseh v'lo saseh. And aseh v'lo saseh al biuroi, and also you have an obligation to get rid of it at that time. Aseh ala achilasa, aseh on eating, shows yamim tochel ala matzah. 7 days you eat matzahs, v'lo chametz. So we dash on matzahs, not chametz. You can't eat Cohen Pesach at the time, you can't eat chametz. Now kol lo saseh shabbat b'kerech aseh, the negative coming from a positive, right? Aseh is treated as a positive. Lo tasa ala chilasai, the lo tasa on eating Erev Pesach, we learn lo teichel olav chametz. As we said, aseh al biuroi. There's an aseh on removing it. We learn from the pasuk. It says tashbisu sa'omi batechem. Lo tasa al biuroi, and the negative we learn from the pasuk shows yamim sa'olei masechet batechem. So you should not have in your hand, in your houses. Now, what is machlekes from Rabbi Yehuda? When is chametz forbidden on Erev Pesach? Rameir said the afternoon Erev Pesach is rabbinical. Shvius and the 7th hour, asur mishum gader, is like a fence. It's not asur min Torah, it's only rabbinical because you mustn't eat it on Pesach itself. But shishis, but the 6th hour, lama, why is it forbidden? Is it mishum gader, just to be an extra fence? Yesh gader le gader, there's a fence for a fence, right? The beginning of the 6th hour, why is that forbidden? The 7th hour itself is only Rabbanan, so why are you guys on the 6th hour? He says the reason this is 6th hour and 7th hour get mixed up. People make a mistake. So even the 6th hour is included in the Gzera. Rabbi Yehuda, he says Rabbi Yehuda says, you know what, you can't eat it from the 5th hour onwards. But that's Midivrei, it's only rabbinical. And Shishis, 6th hour, Asur Mishum Geder. Chametz is not from Min Torah, it's only Rabbanon. Because you mustn't eat it from 6 hours and onwards, which is Min Torah. But then Chamish is the 5th hour, Lama, why is that forbidden? Mishum Geder, you want to make an extra gate? An extra Chumrah? Yesh Geder le Geder, you have Gzera le Gzera. 6th hour itself is only Gzera Rabbanon. So why are you guys on the 5th hour? Ele says the reason the Yisur is Chamish is Chalefes B'Shvius. He says, you know what, 5th hour can get confused with the 7th hour. People make a mistake between the 5th hour, 7th hour. And therefore, it's not Gzera, it's like a siyag, it's a fence. So Rabbi Yehuda holds, people make a mistake between the 5th hour and 7th hour. But elsewhere, Rabbi Yehuda says differently. We got a contradiction in Rabbi Yehuda. Tamar, in Sanhedrin, now we ask him, when did someone kill someone? What time of the day was it? And people usually don't get confused between the 5th hour and the 7th hour. Because the 5th hour the sun is in one direction, the 7th hour the sun's in the other direction. 5th hour doesn't get mixed up with 7th hour. If someone says it happened in the 5th hour, another aide says it happened in the 7th hour, we say it's batal. Here Rabbi Yehuda says 5th hour gets confused with 7. See, Tamar, with evidence, Hadavar Masel Basin, it's given to the basin. The basin is reason, and they're very careful, they'll be particular. People will give proper eidos. But here, Hadavar Masel Nashim is given to anyone, not even women, but it's given to anyone, including women. But Nashim and sometimes they're not so particular on it. We're worried maybe the 5th hour will get mixed up with the 7th hour. They won't be so on top of the time. Tamar, he says, look, the Mishnah in Eidos is another answer. The Mishnah in Eidos, one aid says it was Chilas Chamishis, beginning of the 5th hour, and the other one says end of 7th hour, so Shabbos. Beginning of 5th hour does not get confused with the end of the 7th hour. Right? So that is 3 hours later, right? Here the sun is in the east, here it's in the west. We're worried maybe Soif Chamishis and Chilas Shabbos is the end of the 5th. You hear me? The end of the 5th and the beginning of the 7th. Rabbi say, how far apart is that? It's just over an hour. No, it's 1 hour. End of the 5th, beginning of the 7th.
Oh, yes.
So it's just over an hour.
Yeah.
People might make a mistake. The sun is still in the middle of the horizon of the sky. Therefore, we're worried, and since you have to forbid the end of the 5th hour, they forbade it. We've also learned in the Brisa, Eidos, beginning of the 5th. Chama b'mizrach, the sun's in the east. V'soif Sheva, the end of the 7th. Chama marav, the sun's in the west. La'olam ena chama noita l'marav, the sun does not start properly doing a noticeable turn to the west. Ela b'soif Sheva, the end of 7. So you see, they gave Eidos beginning of 5 and end of 7. So there's no reason to make a mistake. But between the end of the 5th and the beginning of the 7th, where the sun is not really moving to the west yet, is only at the end of the 7th. So there is a noticeable chance. It's very clear from the end of the 5th and beginning of the 7th that there's not much that's hard in it. Now, Rav, in his view of Rameh, that Chomet 6 hours and onwards is only rabbinical. Rav Amar, according to Divrei Rameh, I'm a Kaddish b'Chometz, Masechet Pesachim Daf, so you got your Chometz, which is rabbinically forbidden. And you want to use it for Kiddushin. You think that your wife is worth it so much that you want to use something which is rabbinically forbidden to eat. Is she engaged? It's only Asa Ba'anam with Rabbanan. I'm afraid. No, she's not. La Asa Klum. Just like you're Mekadosh with Chavetz on Pesach. It's forbidden Hanam in Torah. She's not engaged. And don't ask me what she will think about it when you tell her. Now it's right. Because if you engaged a woman on Pesach, wheat, which is a type of wheat, which is only rabbinically forbidden, and you do it in the midbar, where you can hardly get food, and it might be worth something. Do you think it's worth anything during Pesach? It's not. You can't get benefit from it. Midrabanan, it's not worth anything. And therefore she's not Mukudeshes. And sending your mechanical woman with chavetz from 6 hours and onwards, it's also no. It might only be rabbinical, but it's not worth anything. She's not Mekudeshes. Now, what about Bil Chametz on Erev Pesach before Chatzais? Pad Barnash, after Diskaya Pista Gabe Ruchia Ruba, he deposited a bag of bits of bread with Ruchia the Great. He was this person, that's what his name. Asa Shala Rebbe, when he comes Erev Pesach, Ruchia asked Rebbe, what do I do with this chametz now? The owner's not come to take it. Amalei says, Timacha be based in. Get a value based on how much it's worth. B'shas abir, at the time of Shas abir. When is that? We'll see. He deposited a jug of porridge made of chametz. Rashi asked Shalorav, Erev Pesach comes along, and he asked Rav, what do I do with it? Amalei says, Yimacha be based in B'shas abir. Send it based on the based-in price at the time when everyone's getting rid of chametz. Hi, dinner shasabir. What is shasabir? Rabbi Yirmiyah says b'shachris. It means the morning of Erev Pesach. Rabbi Baba says chamish is the 5th hour. Rabbi Yehuda. That is also to be eaten in the 5th hour. But as long as it can be eaten, then you're allowed. Then you mustn't guard it to sell it because maybe the owner will come for it. Oh, Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yirmiyah. It's right. So he said in the morning, when you start being involved in the bill. Some of you, he's right. Now, why do we say you're allowed to take it to sell it? To give some money back to the owner. The chom is going to be forbidden. Therefore, we allow you to guard it and to sell it. Now, Chamishis could be a Huda. The 5th hour in Rabbi Huda, lights have a klum, is not worth anything. Because you can't eat it. The owner loses out if you wait to sell it then. So you should sell it in the morning with a normal price. That way you can give the money back properly. Now, Machlek Zamaroim, about chametz in the 5th hour, according to Yehuda, that you can't eat it with Rabbanon. Chavrai Amrim, but you can get benefit. The Chavayim said, Chamishis could be Yehuda, 5th hour, according to Yehuda, Imigdishai, if you gave it to the Ben Agabai, it's Mukdash, it's holy. I'll say Truma, you made it into Truma, ain't no Truma. It's not Truma. Why? Higdishai Mukdash, you use the base Mukdash, Hekdash Dam, it's got a monetary holiness. The Gizba is going to sell it and use the money for other needs. Right? And this has got a monetary value. You can get benefit for it. I'll say Truma, ain't no Truma. You made it into Truma, it's not valid. Truma is there for eating. And since you cannot eat this, it's got no Kedushas Truma. But on Rabbi Yosef said to Chavayim, it doesn't make not more sense the other way around. You make it holy, it's not holy. I'll say Truma, I raise the Truma, it is Truma. You never redeem Kodshim if it's going to be eaten by dogs. If there's hektish on this chametz, you can't redeem it. The issue to eat it for a person, and therefore you can't be paid it to give it to your dogs to eat. We want the gizba to use the money for B'nai Kabayis. So if you mark this thing which you can't redeem it, you can't use it, not it and not its money, then hektish is not chal. However, I will also say Truma, I raise the Truma. If you made it into Truma, it is Truma, even though you can't eat it, because Taheri, it is permitted to be eaten Dvar Torah. And it's only Atu. You were the one who said, oh, Midrabanan, you should burn it. Atu Shukzata La Sreifa. Right, if you don't eat it, it's going to be burnt later. But since the Issa is only Midrabanan, it's got Kedushas Truma Minat Torah. Yeah? Kedushas Truma can be Chal. Okay. Halacha hey, you still with me, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, now, more about the view of Rabbi Yehuda. The time of the 5th hour is Asma Achili, you can get benefit. Right on Rabbi Yehuda. When the Beis Mikdash is around, on Erev Pesach, they would leave Shtei Chalais, 2 loaves of chametz of the Korban Todah. Persulais, which were puzzle. Monachas Agagitza, which were on a platform, therefore sitting on, and above it was like a roof to shield people from the rain. They would put these 2 loaves so everyone could see them, and that was a simon for the time of Issur of chametz. So Kozman Shem Menachas, when you could see the 2 loaves there, and everyone could still eat chametz. Nitla Achas Men, when one was taken away at the 5th hour, Tailin, then we have to be more careful with the chametz. Lo Eichlin, we don't eat it. Lo Sam, we don't burn it, because it's also to eat mutzbar no. Nidlu shtein, when both chalas have been moved away, beginning on the 6th hour, it's chilu kala am sofen. Then everyone starts burning their chametz. Now another opinion about the zman isur chametz on Erev Pesach. He said chulin, cholin kol arba. Chulin of chametz can be eaten the 4 hours, but not the 5th hour. Truma, you have a bit more. Kol chamesh, end of the 5th hour. But Sarafin, you can burn all types of chametz, even Truma, b'chilas sheish in the beginning of the 6th hour. Now that it says that the 2 chalas of Todah are apostle, they would put them in Harav on Erev Pesach. There's nothing wrong with them, they weren't apostle. But Mishemaya Paislan, why did it say they were apostle? What psul was there? They didn't bring a Korban Todah with it. Lachmei Todah, only holy, do not have intrinsic holiness, Kedushas Aguf, unless you shecht a carbon which is brought with it. And since they were already holy, they've got Kedushas Damim, there's no takana to eat it on a Pesach, you're going to burn it. And that's why it says in the Mishnah they were apostle, because they're not fitting to be eaten. Yeah, without a carbon going with it, they're not fitting to be eaten. I mean, the Bavli asked, why can you not bring now a carbon and slaughter Lachmei Todah? We're talking about either the carbon got lost, okay. Of course, some say they never brought Korban Todah, right, on Erev Pesach, because then you didn't have enough time to eat all the loaves, right? All the loaves which were chametz. Some say they wouldn't bring a Korban Todah on Erev Pesach because of the Chometz. Maybe they brought it on the 13th, and these loaves were from the day before. Okay. Let's carry on. What have we got here? These were kosher, these challahs. They weren't possible. Why is Mish say they were possible? What psul was there? They did not bring the Korban Todah with it, as he said. Yeah, Nachmei Todah, you need to have shchitas a korban with it, right? Yeah. Since already right, we did that bit. Sorry. So now let's carry on. Now through the shchita they become holy. Kedushas aguf. Now the korban wasn't slaughtered, so they have kedushas damim. So why can't you redeem it and eat it before there's manbil? Don't leave it till there's manbil and burn it. Try and eat it before. Many chulin of chametz is there that no one wants to eat. And you'll tell me redeem this and eat the chalas taida. There's no one's going to redeem these chalas to eat it because each person's already had enough of chulin. He said, no, they were pasul chalas. Why are they pasul? Everyone has to bring a taida. He hurries to bring it before Pesach. Pesach, you can't bring it. Because the chametz lives in the Korban Todah. Right? And one of the korbanos, when the blood will spill before Zrika, and because of all the Todas that are being brought, some of the blood will spill, and he gets pasul. Because you can't sprinkle the blood, the Todah and the Lechem is all pasul. Now we have another Masoros on the Simon they used to do on Erev Pesach, for telling you when the Zman of Issa was. There were 2 cows that were ploughing the field in Yerushalmi on a high place. Everyone could go and see them. And when one of them stopped, they wouldn't eat and wouldn't burn. And when both stopped, they started burning the chametz. Surely, Yerushalmi had a din, like those places, not to do melacha on Erev Pesach. You shouldn't do work. So Ode Regel, which all gathered in Yerushalmi, came from places which had this minhag. They must have had this issur. So how are they ploughing on with the cows on Erev Pesach? So he says, near eyes kachoshas, they appeared. They weren't actually ploughing. They looked like they were ploughing. Yesterday, Tani, some lunch, they never stalking. The simon was 2 candles. Yesterday, Tani, some such 2 sheets they would hang up. There's no argument. Madam are the ones that stay parais, 2 animals, stay near 2 candles b'chol. That's weekday. Madam shnei sadinin. 1 or 2 sheets is b'shabbos. Why can we not blow shofar for this? Like they did for other things on a Friday, to tell them different stages of 6 tekiyas every Friday. But he says, if you're going to tell me they're going to be a tekiah, and if the Shem of the Tamid ain't taking, they're blowing for the common Tamid, they won't realize, they make mistakes. But he says, but we learned in Sukkah, every Erev Shabbos, they would blow shalosh, 3 tekiyas before Shabbos came in, to stop people working. The shalosh tekiyas, number 3, when Shabbos came in, to separate Shabbos to weekday. So why are we worried? People will think, these are tekiyas, like everyday Tamid of the afternoon. They won't know when Shabbos comes in. Like you are worried about Biur Chametz. But he says, tekiyas on the Friday, can't have Shabbos, can they blow every week? We ain't tired if no one makes a mistake. But here, if they're going to do it, once a year, if my man came, you're going to say this, maybe it's for the Tamid, they'll make a mistake. They'll make a mistake and change it with the tekiyas of the Tamid Shel Shachar. Who knows what mistakes they'll make? Okay. Now, Gamliel said, chulin can be eaten for the 4th hour, on Truma the 5th hour. Lama! Why can Truma be eaten the extra hour? Because of the Kedusha of Truma, to stop it being lost, or maybe there's not so many people eating it. Therefore they added an hour. Man, nothing but there was a difference between them. Difference between the chalas taida, the loaves of taida of chametz. In time, you're going to tell me she'en achlam v'suin, not so many people eat it. Elo achlam v'suin, these are permitted even to Yisraelim, so therefore people will eat it. So it's got din like chulin, which is permitted till the beginning of the 5th hour. But in time, you're going to tell me menei kedusha, so the kedusha of truma, then elo these chalas taida yesh lein kedusha, they should have kedusha, and therefore you don't need to be lost. You can eat it all to the 5th hour. Rav Nosson said, they used to put the chalas in Harav to work out the zbanim, kisheros, they could there be eaten. At the beginning of the 5th hour, nitlu, they were both taken away, and then we leave it an hour for eating, like with Gamliel, the truma is permitted for achila, or the 5th hour. And same thing with the chalas taida. But in that hour we would see what's happening, but we don't eat it, but we don't burn it. And after that we could burn it. So you see that chalas taida of chametz is permitted by achila like all the 5th hour, like truma, whereas chametz of chulin is forbidden. Now, Islach Meima, can you possibly say that the het of chalas taida in the 5th hour is because there's no one around to eat it? It's because of kedusha that the chalas taida mutter to anyone, and there's tons of people who can eat it, but they've got kedusha. Of hachas here as well truma. The reason Gamliel is b'nei kedushasa. That's the reason, because the kedusha can allow you to keep it a bit longer. Okay, now back to the machlokes tanaim. This man isov chometz. According to Meir, you can eat till the end of the 5th hour. According to Yehuda, till the end of the 4th hour. According to Gamliel, till the end of the 4th hour. And in Truma, till the end of the 5th hour. I think the halacha should be like Gamliel. Now what he does, they both said their views. But he takes a bit of this, a bit of that. He's more a centrist figure. Yeah, he's machriya between the two opinions, Rameir and Yehuda. He says Chulin, he says like Yehuda. Truma, he says like Rameir. So he's a bit like one Tana, makes a bit like another one. He's not completely arguing on anyone. Therefore, we should pass it like him. So Rabbi Yochanan, he said, he says a bit of both of them. Now this Lashon, you have in Bavli, halacha kedivrei machriya. Yeah, the halacha is like the middle ground opinion. And machriya usually is where, well, he says that and this, and he says that and this, and at least you said, well, in that din, this guy's right, in that din, that guy's right. So you're taking the two opinions, a bit of each sort of thing. That's the Lashon machriya. And it's very well that halacha is like him. So in that mix-up that you're passing like this one, you've also got other tanas with you on that side as well. Right? And you've got like a rabbim against a yachid. In Bavli it says Ram Gamliel is not considered a machriya. We don't say Allah Chidim machriya unless the two Tanaim gave their view that there's a reason for Svara to make that distinction. And as if they're arguing on two separate arguments. And each one, they're arguing, in one dini passes like one side, one dini passes like another. If the Tanaim never mentioned that difference of the Machriya, they never referred to that, then both of them are agreeing there's no reason to make any distinction. And the third Tana seems to argue on both of them. And the Lach is not like him. Neither Rabbi Yehuda or Rabbi Meir said there's a difference between Chulin and Truma. You hear that? Rabbi Gamliel is coming along making this distinction. Neither of them said it. Rabbi Gamliel is the one who comes up with this new idea. So he's not really a machriya. He's not taking their views, one in this case, one in that case, because they don't refer to that sort of difference. He's like a third opinion. All right, that's Clover Shurim for you. Okay, where are we up to? 7 o'clock. I think we will carry on tomorrow, Rabbi Sai. Okay, tomorrow we have the famous Chanina's Gavin Cohen.